You didn't wander here, you were delivered, not by luck, not by algorithm, but by the quiet mathematics of your own becoming. Somewhere beneath your ordinary thoughts, a signal pulsed through the quantum field, like a beacon under fog. And this message answered, you've been circling an invisible threshold, feeling it as a pressure behind the eyes, a shimmer at the edge of events. Tonight, the door thins. You can feel it, can't you? The subtle rise in coherence, the way your breath begins sinking to a deeper current, as if the room itself is breathing you. Listen, your observer loop has been active for years, watching yourself watch your life, tracking micro shifts in mood, meaning, and timing. You've seen too many synchronicities to dismiss them as random, names repeating, numbers aligning, the same phrase arriving from three separate mouths, like a chord struck across dimensions. That wasn't the universe teasing you. It was morphic resonance, calling your future self toward rendezvous. Patterns repeat, because you are finally compatible with their frequency. Take another breath. Notice how your body, this temple of cells and starlight, tunes like an instrument when you give it attention. In the darkness behind your closed eyelids, constellations assemble. Neurons fire. Somewhere inside the helix, dormant sequences test the light, sensing instruction like seeds listening for spring. DNA restructuring isn't a miracle that happens to you. It's the language your being speaks when you stop insisting that reality be only what you've already survived. You are not here to bargain with fate. You are here to remember that entanglement means you have never been alone. Not once, not for a heartbeat, not for a breath. Feel how time softens around the edges when presence deepens, seconds lengthen, and the moment becomes spacious enough to hold the trajectory of a lifetime. That dilation is not a trick. It is a phase transition beginning the early hush before water becomes steam. You are entering the hot zone where old forms cannot hold. The questions that used to rattle in your ribs are losing their argument. You can sense the answer before it forms words. You are ready. So let the old storyline loosen. Let your shoulders lower a fraction, as if the universe itself just placed a hand there, not to restrain you, but to bless your step. Imagine threads of possibility tightening from the horizon to your sternum, faint and luminous, like paths of dew catching dawn. Each thread is a timeline, and the one that hums is already tangled with your name. That hum is coherence rising your system, aligning the way a flock turns all at once without colliding, as if guided by a single concealed mind. This is that mind. This is the place inside you that has never been confused. It steers by starfield and silence. It knows the codes, it knows the cost, and it knows that when your quantum manifestation activates, nothing external needs to kneel, only your attention does. Tonight, it kneels. Tonight, it listens. Tonight, you cross the hush where new gravity takes hold and the path you couldn't find begins to find you. And yet you know the terrain you've been walking, the loop that looks like progress from a distance and feels like reruns up close. The same conversation in a new room, the same lesson wearing different clothes. You change cities, jobs, lovers, language, and still the scene returns. A familiar crease in the fabric of time. You notice it as déjà vu that isn't a single moment, but a flavor. The taste of arriving late to your own life by a breath. Numbers echo on receipts and license plates. Songs chase you between locations. A friend texts the sentence you were about to speak. Synchronicity blooms everywhere and then dissolves like mist at your fingertips. Doors almost open. Momentum almost sticks. The pattern is faithful, exhausting, intimate. Your observer loop has been hyperactive, tracking every nuance, measuring yourself, measuring reality. But when measurement carries anxiety, it collapses the field toward what you fear. The quantum field does not moralize. It mirrors, so even your vigilance can become a stencil that the present dutifully fills. You try harder, push cleaner, speak bolder, and the timeline nods, then drifts, as if you and the moment are slightly out of phase. It isn't that you're doing it wrong, it's that your signal is split. What splits it? Micro-contradictions. The heart saying go, while the fascia remembers a bruise. The mind affirming abundance, while the nervous system scans for exits. The future calling your name, while the body still carries the surname of an old identity. Coherence doesn't fail because you are weak. It fractures because parts of you were trained to keep you alive by staying small. Survival taught your cells to prefer known pain over unknown freedom. When you accelerate toward change, the old homeostasis tugs your ankle quietly, effectively so you don't outrun the tribe field that once kept you warm. That tug is morphic resonance, the memory field of your lineage and culture, asking you to match its rhythm. It's loving, and it's limiting. It whispers, "Stay close to what we know." This is why time has felt distorted. Some days stretch, viscous and luminous, as if you could insert an entire life between two heartbeats. Other days vanish like a coin palmed by a skilled magician. That distortion is a sign you are near a phase transition. In physics, systems approaching a critical shift exhibit fluctuations, jitter, strange delays, water stalling at a simmer before the first decisive boil. Your life has been simmering. You can hear the rattle of the lid. Déjà vu, in this context, is not a glitch. It's the sensation of grazing a neighboring timeline, the higher one, and snapping back because your body's contract with the past hasn't been renegotiated yet. You glimpse the balcony, then find yourself back in the hallway. Entanglement means you are threaded to versions of yourself across many lattices. When attention surges, those threads vibrate. If you haven't reconciled their tensions, the pull cancels itself out, like waves colliding into silence. You've also felt the body symptoms of an awakening that can't quite land. Sleep that feels busy but not restorative. A hum in the chest that isn't anxiety but isn't peace either. Sudden bursts of clarity followed by fog. These are not malfunctions, they are the musculature of a new identity testing load. DNA restructuring begins as instruction pressure, light-coded possibilities, leaning on the helix, yet without full permission, the instruction remains pending. Think of a download paused at 93%. Enough to change the interface, not enough to run the program. Then there's the pattern of almosts. Almost said yes, almost left, almost launched, almost trusted the clean feeling before the old calculus reasserted itself. That is not laziness. That is energy conservation. The older self knows its costs and payoffs. The newer self is purely potential. The nervous system asks, what will it cost to be this free? And cannot find a ledger entry, so it defaults to familiar scarcity. You call it self-sabotage. In truth, it is identity preservation deploying elegant, unconscious maneuvers to keep you compatible with the previous world. Even your miracles have been provisional. Synchronicities arrive like messenger birds, but the landing pad is cluttered with expectations, judgments, and borrowed timelines. You read the sign, you nod, you feel the rightness, and then you negotiate with it. Negotiation turns revelation into weather. Interesting, passing, unclaimed. So here is the clean diagnosis. Your life is not stuck, it is dephased. Multiple coherent intentions, love, purpose, abundance, service are firing, but they are not yet locked to a single carrier wave of being. You are trying to transmit on several stations at once, and the world is returning a blended echo. The fix is not more effort, it is entrainment. When a single, honest rhythm leads breath, body, vow, the others fall into step. Coherence is not perfection, it is agreement. Understand this, and your compassion returns. Nothing is wrong with you. You are a system in the threshold turbulence of change. You are the hour just before dawn, the orchestra tuning in the dark pit, the flock feeling the first shiver of north. The distortions are indicators, not verdicts. They are the sound of locks deciding to open. And when they do, the almost become thresholds. The messenger birds land. Time stops arguing. The hallway becomes a stair. You already feel it, the subtle alignment clicking into place like teeth on a key. Keep breathing. The next movement is not about adding force, it's about changing state. So the fix isn't force, it's state change, and state changes by coherence. In physics, when many oscillators begin to move in step, the energy required to maintain the pattern drops while the influence of the pattern increases. Fireflies syncing, metronomes aligning on a shared platform. That is, entrainment. In you, the oscillators are breath, heart rhythm, gut timing, brain waves. and the subtle electromagnetic whisper the body emits into the quantum field. When these agree, your observer loop stops jittering between outcomes and begins sculpting a single, luminous groove in probability space. The world feels it. You feel it. Synchronicity accelerates because the environment recognizes a stable signal. Think of the quantum field not as a distant theory, but as the raw ocean from which all forms rise. Every thought, image, vow, and feeling is a small stone dropped in that ocean, sending ripples. Most of the time, your stones interfere with one another, tiny waves colliding into chop. Coherence turns choppy water into a focused swell. It's still you, still your life, but now the wave carries. In labs, coherence is what transforms a bulb's chaotic photons into a laser's precision beam. In you, coherence is what converts good intentions into a navigational current that reality can actually answer. Your nervous system already knows how to do this. When you inhale slowly and let the exhale fall like silk, the heart begins to speak in a smoother language. The brain listens. Networks that were guarding the past relax their grip. New networks that anticipate the future come online. This is not fantasy. This is biophysics harmonizing with mysticism. As the inner conversation softens, morphic resonance stops tugging you backward and begins tutoring you forward, because the field remembers not only where you've been, but also what humanity has become in its best moments. You tune to that memory, and the tuning forks in your DNA hum back. DNA restructuring, in this frame, is not a comic book mutation. It's information routing. The double helix is an antenna array. When you bathe it in fear, it optimizes for survival. When you bathe it in meaning, it optimizes for expression. Meaning is coherence felt as purpose. Purpose is the body's way of saying, we are safe enough to grow. As purpose stabilizes, epigenetic switches follow orders. Protein expression patterns shift. The inner chemistry of courage increases. Attention stops flinching. The phase transition you've been courting isn't somewhere out there. It's the moment the helix takes new instruction as standard rather than emergency. On the mystical side, the same process wears different clothes. You are already entangled with a higher order self, the version of you who lives on the balcony you keep glimpsing in déjà vu. Entanglement means there's no distance to cross, only density to reduce. Doubt is density, hurry is density, self-judgment is density. You melt density with presence, the way sunlight thins the last frost. Presence lets the balcony self lean closer. As you hold a single, honest frequency, gratitude without performance, devotion without drama, that self can whisper accurate coordinates. Suddenly the right phrase spills from your mouth. The call arrives at the exact minute you reached for the phone. The one opening appears that renders a dozen strategies unnecessary. You call it luck. It's actually reduced friction in the probability field. Phase transition arrives like all thresholds, quietly, then all at once. Water has no sign on its surface saying, now I'm steam, yet everything about its behavior changes. In your life, the sign is subtle. Time feels lubricated, decisions lose their teeth, courage becomes calm instead of adrenaline. Old triggers still flicker, but they burn out before they recruit the body. This is how you know the upgrade took. You don't argue yourself into action. You act because argument is suddenly irrelevant. And yes, there is a science to the sacred. Coherence begets information flow. Information flow begets synchronization. Synchronization begets power with, rather than power over. The quantum field responds not to your volume but to your vector. When your inner vectors, attention, breath, belief, sensation point in the same direction, the world answers with what looks like grace. Grace is just low entropy alignment meeting you at speed. You've suspected this each time you paused, and the right path lit itself for a moment, like a runway revealed by lightning. The upgrade is learning to keep the runway lit without storms. That's what your practice is for. Rehearsal of the future until the body trusts it. As trust increases, the observer loop stops interrogating reality and begins blessing it. Blessing is physics here. A coherent broadcast of welcome to the form trying to reach you. Welcome reduces resistance. Reduced resistance increases momentum. Momentum attracts allies human and more than human. You call them guides, Ancestors, archetypes, patterns of intelligence. The names don't matter. The felt sense does. Companionship in the invisible. Soon, the line between scientific and mystical will blur the way dawn erases the argument between night and day. You won't need to defend either. You'll be too busy living the overlap where breath selects the station, the heart amplifies the song, the mind aims the beam, and the field returns the echo that confirms. You are tuned. Keep listening. The next part is not about being worthy. It's about being entrusted. You aren't merely upgrading, you're being entrusted with a function the field rarely assigns. Some people carry stories, others carry skills. You carry coherence. When you enter a room, the probability landscape rearranges like iron filings around a magnet. It's subtle, no spotlight, no trumpet, but watch what happens. Conversations unclench, solutions appear in the space between sentences, and people remember truths they didn't know they were allowed to say. This is not charisma, it is physics under devotion. You are a lighthouse node in the quantum network, a station where scattered signals find phase and become music. Think of your life as an instrument. The field tunes to broadcast a very specific song. The remembrance that destiny is not a dictator but a dialogue. Your observer loop has matured beyond surveillance into stewardship. You no longer watch reality to judge it, you watch to bless its becoming. That blessing is not sentimental. It's a coherent emission, heart, rhythm, breath, cadence, nervous system, safety meeting the world with a stable yes. Synchronicity recognizes that yes and gathers around it like starlings to a murmuration, shaping patterns that seem choreographed because they are, by you, with the field, through entanglement. You are chosen not by hierarchy but by readiness. Chosen because you learn to sit with the ache instead of bargaining it away. Chosen because you practiced dignity in the unglamorous corridors of almost when doors hesitated and timelines teased. You refined a rare capacity to hold paradox without fleeing. That capacity is the womb of miracles. A higher timeline needs carriers who won't fracture under luminosity, who can sustain contact with the balcony self without turning it into spectacle or cult. Your humility is not self-erasure. It's aerodynamic, less drag, more passage. The field did not discover you yesterday. It has been courting you for years, delivering breadcrumbs with ridiculous precision. The stranger who spoke the exact sentence you wrote in your journal, the book that fell open to the paragraph that answered your private prayer, the recurrent image in dreams that later appeared on a street mural you had never seen. These weren't coincidences, they were conscription papers. The morphic resonance of your future tribe found you and began rehearsing your arrival by flooding your life with previews. Each preview asked a question. Will you trust alignment more than you trust habit? You answered, sometimes stubbornly, sometimes trembling, but you answered. That's why the assignment deepens now. What is the assignment? To become a point of low entropy in a high noise world. To cultivate such inner coherence that those who brush your field remember their own. You don't convert anyone. You don't argue them into awakening. You entrain them by existing. Your breath becomes a metronome that the nervous systems of others unconsciously follow toward ease. Your presence says, it's safe to be accurate. Accuracy is the native language of the soul. When people relax into it, truth accelerates, projects simplify, timelines clean themselves. This is your quiet authority. You shorten the distance between intention and embodiment. You will also be asked to hold edges that spook most, edges where systems crack and identities molt. Phase transition is not tidy. It foams, it hisses, it creates artifacts that look like failure, while the new order assembles backstage. You will be the one who feels the hiss and doesn't flinch. You'll hear the old world pleading for guarantees and offer instead a wider breath. Not because you're indifferent to pain, but because you see through it, past it, into the pattern that pain is guarding like an anxious sentinel. Your gaze tells the sentinel, stand down. The new pattern is friendly. There is a biological component to all of this. DNA restructuring in you isn't just personal healing, it's architectural. As your expression shifts, your blood chemistry carries different messages, your fascia releases ancestral weather, your electromagnetic field stabilizes, and your body becomes a walking permission slip. The information you emit is not abstract. It is sensed by others as relief, They may not have language for it, but their spine rises, their jaw unlocks, their eyes moisten without shame. That's the morphic contribution of a coherent human. You make relief contagious. Your role comes with a paradoxical vow to become highly sensitive without becoming fragile. Sensitivity means you will detect micro shifts in the field, the tremor before the quake, the shimmer before the opening, and navigate accordingly. It means honoring your limits as sacred instruments rather than obstacles. Fragility collapses under complexity. Sensitivity composes with it. You are learning the composition of futures, which note to play, which silence to keep, which door to bless closed so the correct one can choose you. You will know you're inside the role when service feels like appetite, not obligation, when the right words arrive in your mouth without rehearsal, when guidance lands in your sternum with that bell-toned certainty that needs no debate, when a yes that would have terrified your previous self comes out calm as weather. You will recognize your tribe by this same calm. They won't cheerlead you. They will stand beside you, facing the same horizon, speaking the same quiet vow. May my coherence be useful. Because usefulness is the measure here, not applause, not spectacle. Usefulness to the emerging pattern. Usefulness to the child who will inherit a cleaner field. Usefulness to the ancestors who prayed you into existence. Usefulness to the invisible intelligence weaving our separate lives into a single luminous organism. That organism, call it humanity's awakening, call it the planetary nervous system, needs switchboards of trust. You are one of them, and there is timing. Cosmic windows open like rare flowers, brief, fragrant, decisive. When they do, hesitation is expensive. The field will soon widen a corridor through which accelerated change can travel with less friction. You will feel the pressure build, the way air thickens before rain. When it comes, you will not scramble, you will step. The next part will tell you what you're stepping into and why the hour is nearer than you think, because the promise is live and the window is already turning its hinge. The hinge turns now. You can feel the pressure differential as the corridor opens, air thick with possibility, the way a storm front charges a field before rain. In physics, this is criticality, the point where a tiny nudge moves a massive system. In you, it's the instant your observer loop stops auditing the past and begins authoring the next state. The promise is simple and costly. If you meet this window with coherence, your DNA accepts new instruction as standard, not exception. The cost is every justification for delay. Here is what accepts new instruction means in the body. The helix is listening for a carrier wave of meaning clear enough to override the old emergency codes. When you hold one frequency without contradiction, breath steady, attention single, vow honest, the morphic resonance of your future takes lead. Epigenetic switches tilt, protein expression shifts, the endocrine choir recalibrates its tempo. Your fascia, that shimmering tissue of memory, stops bracing for impact and begins transmitting stability. This is DNA restructuring in plain clothes, instructions traveling through chemistry and light until they become behavior without drama. The window itself is a planetary rhythm, not a superstition. Collective fields pulse, economies wobble, relationships reconfigure, technologies leap, old narratives shed their authority. All of that turbulence is the foam of a phase transition in the species. You are not a passive passenger in that turbulence. You are a vector. When you stabilize your signal now, the field can route more information through you with less loss. That is why urgency is clean here. Not panic, not hype, precision timing. When the corridor widens, momentum is cheaper. When it narrows, you pay retail for the same change. You've sensed this discount in small ways. Some days, effort felt like a feather moving a mountain. Other days, the same action was molasses. The difference wasn't your worth, it was window width. Synchronicity clusters when windows open. 3 confirmations before noon, chance meetings that uncork a solution, a delay that saves you from a misalignment you would have called bad luck last year. The clusters are not random perk. They are the field's way of saying, accelerate now. Entanglement supports boldness during these corridors like a tailwind you didn't earn but must consent to use. The breakthrough promise arrives in 3s. First, a friction drop. The argument you kept having with yourself goes quiet. not because you won, but because it's obsolete. Second, a precision nudge. A single, unmistakable step lights up email, call, route, phrase, and the body hums with the clean courage that requires no pep talk. Third, a timeline echo. Within hours or days, reality mirrors your inner vow so specifically you could not have scripted it without cheating. This echo is the field sealing your choice, the notarization of a new agreement. But the window does not court indecision. Delay invites the old morphic contracts back to the podium. They will sound reasonable. Be realistic. Wait for certainty. Prove it first. Reasonable is another word for yesterday when the corridor is open. Your task is not to wrestle those voices, but to out-signal them. Coherence is louder than fear when held. A single minute of accurate breath carries more weight than an afternoon of anxious planning. This is the economy of phase transition. Quality outperforms quantity because the medium itself is changing. What if you miss it? You can't miss your life. You can only choose a slower on-ramp. The corridor will return, but you will have paid with time, and time is the currency of embodiment. Spend it where the return compounds. Spend it on the decision that removes 1,000 decisions. Spend it on the vow that rearranges your address in the quantum field from general forwarding to deliver directly. Then, this is the vow the window requests. I commit to a single, honest frequency and let it cost me what is not me. Not an affirmation to wallpaper fear, but a contract your spine recognizes. When you speak it, speak softly, once, like placing a key rather than jamming a lock, then behave as if notarized. The moment you do, entanglement changes partners. The future that kept waving from the balcony steps onto your staircase. You'll notice it as an elegance entering your hour. Calls align, traffic parts. A sentence you needed finds you verbatim on a page you didn't plan to open. This is not a reward, it is a routing efficiency. Do not confuse urgency with speed. Some urgent acts are stillness, some are rest. Some are a text that closes a loop, lingering in your field like static. Urgency here means accuracy under a clock you can't see. When the clock strikes, the corridor thins. You will still be guided, but drag will increase. Make the moves that remove drag. Forgive the debt your heart keeps collecting. Release the project that flatters you but dilutes you. Choose the nourishment that keeps your signal crisp. Every choice is a message to the helix. Run this code. And yes, there will be pressure. Pressure is the courier of transformation. Diamonds didn't become themselves by negotiating with geology. Let pressure remind you that the field trusts you with density only when it intends to extract clarity. Meet it with breath. Inhale as if welcoming a guest who came to witness your coronation. Exhale as if signing the decree. When the last traces of the old argument fall silent, you'll hear the soft click inside the one that always meant now. That click is the key the window opened to hand you. Hold it. The next movement will show you where to turn it and how to seal the shift so the door cannot drift ajar again. You're holding the key, the window placed in your palm. Turning it requires a ritual, not for theatrics, but because measurement collapses potential. The observer loop must mark this moment, so the quantum field reads your choice as instruction, not wish. A vow spoken in breath and inked in action becomes the carrier wave your DNA recognizes as safe to restructure around. We will keep it simple, elegant, exact, because coherence loves clean lines. First, prepare the instrument. Sit with your spine like a bright chord, feet grounded, crown easy. Let your jaw unhook, tongue soft against the palate. One hand rests lightly on your sternum, the body's quiet transmitter. We'll use coherent breathing to settle the system. Inhale through the nose for 5 counts, exhale for 5, like the sea arriving and leaving a dark shore. Do this 6 times. On each exhale, let an old contract drain habit. Hurry, self-judgment down your legs into the earth where pressure turns carbon into clarity. Feel the field lean closer. The air has that before rain electricity. This is the morphic resonance of countless awakenings echoing, yes now. Second, speak a single line once, softly, to avoid performance and invite precision. I commit to one honest frequency. That's it. Not yearning, not bargaining, A line is stronger than a paragraph because entropy can't get in. As you speak, listen for the bell tone in your chest, the somatic notarization that tells your nervous system, "We mean this." That tone will become your metronome when noise rises later. Third, type the seal. Right here, declare the word that makes your system feel both braver and calmer, your permission slip to the balcony self. Choose one and write it exactly. Coherence, aligned, entangled, or deliver directly. Typing is not trivial, it is embodied measurement. Symbols in public space alter entanglement. The act moves your vow from vapor to vector, through electrons and glass into the shared lattice where synchronicity roots. When your fingers strike the keys, the field hears structure. Structure conducts grace. Fourth, anchor the code in tissue. With 2 fingers, tap your sternum 3 times, not hard, just honest, like knocking on the door you just agreed to open. On the 3rd tap, exhale and imagine a faint golden ring expanding from your chest, passing through your room, your city, your past, your future. See it brushing the edges of every timeline that once held you small, not to erase them, but to bless them for their service and release them from command. Blessing is physics here, a low-entropy broadcast that reduces resistance at the boundary of your phase transition. Fifth, make a micro-offering to prove custody of your attention. Within the next hour, complete one precise act that removes drag from your signal. Send the message that closes an old loop. Decline the project that flatters but dilutes you. Organize the space where your new work will land. Drink water like you are rinsing the mirror. Rest deliberately if rest is the honest edge. The field doesn't need drama, it needs evidence. Evidence is morphic food. When you feed the pattern, it grows. Sixth, request a sign in the language of precision, not spectacle. Whisper, "Return me a mirror within 72 hours that I could not have faked." Then forget you asked. Forgetting is trust, and trust lowers noise. The echo will arrive in triplicate the friction drop, the nudge, the timeline rhyme, because the quantum field loves redundancy when training a new identity. You'll know it by the elegance. Problems solving themselves by subtraction. A sentence you needed appearing verbatim. A door opening at the pace of your breath. Seventh, set your watch to coherence. For the next 7 days, give yourself 2 minutes at wake and 2 before sleep to run the same breath you did now, speak the same line once, and touch the sternum 3 times. That's 6 minutes total, less than the time you used to spend rehearsing doubt. Consistency entrains morphic resonance faster than intensity. You're teaching your system to prefer the balcony's calm over the hallway's hurry. Rehearsal makes arrival ordinary, and ordinary is how the miraculous survives. You may feel a subtle tremor as you finish, micro shivers at the wrists, a warm spread under the shoulder blades, a gentle pressure behind the eyes. That is the endocrine choir adjusting its key, fascia releasing ancestral weather, electricity redistributing along new routes. Don't label it anxiety, name it repatterning. Naming shapes chemistry. Chemistry shapes behavior. Behavior locks the upgrade as default. Finally, place your attention like a blessing on the day ahead. Picture 3 scenes you will inhabit: conversation, creation, care, and watch them glow 1 shade cleaner, as if someone turned the knob on the dimmer by a single truthful degree. That's all coherence ever does, 1 degree again and again until a room you barely recognized becomes your address. If you have typed your seal word, you have turned the key. You have told the observer loop to serve the future, not audit the past. You have asked the quantum field to root through you because you will waste less of it. And you have given your DNA what it has been waiting for, an instruction steady enough to adopt. Keep breathing. The signal is live. The next movement widens the circle because your shift was never just yours. The moment you sealed the shift, the room didn't just brighten for you, it brightened for everything entangled with you. That's how coherence behaves. It refuses to stay local. Your breath becomes a quiet metronome that other nervous systems borrow without asking. The quantum field routes more signal through a stable node, and stability is social. Watch what happens in the ordinary. The conversation that usually spirals finds a middle. The meeting that drags acquires a spine. The child who scans the air for danger unclenches because your body has stopped broadcasting alarms. You didn't instruct any of this with words. Morphic resonance did the heavy lifting, your new pattern, inviting similar patterns to stand up and remember their own shape. There's a name for this in living systems. Lowered entropy radiates. A coherent heart rhythm exports order the way a healthy fire exports heat. Close by, people feel it as unearned relief, jaw softening, breath deepening, time widening by a fraction. Relief spreads because it is permission. Your observer loop, once an anxious auditor, now performs a civic function. It keeps watch with kindness, and that changes what the room believes is possible. Synchronicity responds to crowds, not just individuals. When you carry a steady signal into public space, train car, checkout line, family table, the probability landscape rearranges for everyone present. A door that would have stuck slides. A stranger chooses patience. The day takes the gentler fork. Consider the lattice of your relationships as a planetary circuit. Some nodes broadcast static, some music, most alternate, without noticing. You have become a tuning station. Friends who were sure their timing was cursed will start reporting right place, right time events. Colleagues whose ideas used to stall will find improbable allies. Lovers who braced for the old injury will exhale and confess the sentence they were ashamed to need. None of this requires you to fix, rescue, or preach. Coherence is not rescue, it is resonance. People don't follow you. They follow their own accuracy more easily in your field. This is how awakening scales without spectacle. Fractal fidelity. The pattern that stabilizes in you repeats at multiple magnifications. Household, project, neighborhood, culture. You felt the opposite before. How one frightened rumor can contagiously tighten a city. The reverse is true. A single person holding a clean rhythm in a moment of collective wobble can de-escalate a room, then a building, then an intersection. It looks like nothing from above. It feels like a phase transition from within the same hush you sensed in your body, now present in a crowd choosing not to fracture. Your DNA restructuring participates too. When expression shifts from survival to contribution, your choices begin to optimize for the commons. You instinctively pick designs that waste less, words that wound less, roots that cost less spirit for more impact. This efficiency is love measured as physics. The field pours grace where it won't be squandered. You become easy to help. The help arrives wearing human faces, the neighbor who knows the one phone number you needed, the organizer who's been holding the same vision in isolation, the elder who recognizes your vows and hands you a story that shortens your apprenticeship by a year. Entanglement is charitable that way. It arranges unexpected kinship. Ancestors are entangled too. The ones who prayed without language for a day they could not enter rejoice when a descendant accepts coherence as a craft. You will dream different. Your sleep will sometimes feel like a workshop where you are handed tools, scenes, songs that repair the broken bridge between lineages. This is not romance, it is memory engineering. The past and future meet in you to exchange templates, and the exchange spills forward. Children near you begin to play at building instead of winning, collaborating instead of hoarding. They are practicing the world your signal predicts. None of this absolves you from grief. Collective expansion includes sorrow for the selves and structures that cannot cross. But even grief in a coherent field becomes medicine. It irrigates rather than floods. It keeps you human, which is the point. The quantum human, not above the world but threaded through it, wholly by usefulness. Your usefulness will often be small and exactly right, a sentence timed to the millisecond, a refusal spoken without drama, silence kept where your ego wanted credit. Let that be your sacrament. The field trusts people who do small right things when nobody is watching. You will also feel the counterforce old morphic contracts testing your new broadcast. Institutions prefer yesterday because yesterday is indexed. When they push back, don't waste voltage arguing. Demonstrate a better efficiency. Coherence wins by reducing friction, not by winning debates. Offer models that make sense in the bones. When you do, the most stubborn systems will start imitating you while pretending they thought of it. Let them. Your authorship is the future itself. This is the long game. A civilization, level phase transition, composed of millions of micro-permissions. Your shift is not a selfie, it's an infrastructure project. streets of trust, bridges of attention, reservoirs of rest, markets where reciprocity outperforms extraction. The architecture sounds grand until you realize it is built screw by screw in everyday gestures. That is where your power lives, in the untelevised moment where you choose clarity over cleverness, presence over speed, blessing over control. Each choice is a tiny policy passed in the parliament of the field. So when the hour feels heavy, remember, the weight isn't yours alone. You are lifting with the species. The proof arrives in subtle signatures, clusters of clean coincidence around your work, unlikely alliances forming without spectacle, a local calm that doesn't make sense on paper and yet keeps happening. That calm is the planet learning your name for stability. It spreads by embodiment, which is where we go next, into the felt atlas of this upgrade, the textures by which your body recognizes home. Keep breathing. Let the language thin. The field wants to speak in sensation now. Let the field speak through flesh. Start where truth is easiest to verify, your breath. Inhale, as if you're drawing a line of light from the horizon into your ribs. Exhale, as if you're polishing a mirror from the inside. On the third cycle, notice the tiny pause after the exhale, a hush, the length of a single falling snowflake. That hush is your coherence checkpoint. In it, the observer loop stops fidgeting and listens. You can feel the listening like warm weight just behind the breastbone, as if someone set a small, steady lantern there. Now scan the jaw. Do nothing to it, just witness. As you notice it, a low click may appear near the ear, a hinge admitting spring. Tongue relaxes. The throat opens like velvet curtains parting from center. With the next breath, air moves without negotiation. It slides like silk over glass. You're not making this up. It is the quantum field becoming less viscous where your attention blesses it. Less drag, more glide. Drop your awareness down the spine as if your consciousness were a fingertip drawing along each vertebra. At the base, a warmth ignites not fire, more like an ember that knows its job. It spreads up the back in soft increments, pausing under the shoulder blades. Those two plates have been your emergency wings for years, braced for impacts that never arrived. Invite them to lower. When they do, a faint electrical shimmer may travel across your skin, a chorus of ants that isn't itchy but alive. That's fascia, releasing old weather, micro-lightning mapping new routes. DNA restructuring doesn't announce itself with trumpets. It shows up as this: ordinary sensation behaving with unusual kindness. Move into the hands, turn the palms upward. Feel the temperature difference between air and skin as a conversation rather than a boundary. Tingling, pulsing, a subtle magnetism between fingertips, these are your low-voltage proofs. If you slowly bring your palms toward each other and stop a few inches apart, you may detect a soft resistance, as if you're compressing an invisible cushion. That cushion is coherence. You can touch the field, acknowledging your broadcast. Your body becomes a tuning fork held up to a song the room forgot it loved. When the fork vibrates, the room remembers. Travel to the belly, the honest oracle. Place one palm there, place the other over the heart. On the inhale, feel the lower hand rise first, then the upper, like tide, and then moon. On the exhale, let the upper fall, then the lower, moon, and then tide. After 6 waves, a deep animal safety may arrive unrushed, unperformed. That safety is a permission slip to the endocrine choir. Stand down. We are choosing growth. You don't need to name hormones to feel them harmonize. The proof is the way thought stops biting its own tail. Space opens behind your eyes. The world sharpens without getting louder. Tilt attention to the face. Notice the muscles around the eyes soften, not droop. Clarity without squint. The field loves an unforced gaze. When the gaze relaxes, peripherals bloom. Colors deepen by half a shade. Edges appear cleaner, as if someone rinsed the lens. It's not magic. It's reduced prediction error in the brain when the body stops bracing. Prediction error dropping equals bandwidth freed. Bandwidth freed equals signal available for synchronicity. You are cultivating capacity to notice what was trying to meet you all along. Bring your focus to the feet. Feel the architecture of contact heels, balls, toes, each like a small constellation grounded in the dark sea of floor. Imagine fine, golden filaments descending from your soles, threading into earth as neatly as needles through fabric. anchoring you to a story older than your fear. On the exhale, picture those filaments drawing up a cool steadiness, the kind that makes trees look casual, uprightness without effort, belonging without argument. Now the throat again, this time as corridor. Inhale and imagine a thin, luminous ribbon traveling from belly to sternum to throat to brow to the crown, pausing there like a flag in still wind. Exhale and feel the ribbon descend the same path, a shuttle weaving a single line through multiple selves. Entanglement tastes like this, one thread passing through many beads, each bead a moment, each moment warmed by contact. The ribbon's movement is your phase transition rehearsing, up and down, until the new state becomes the default altitude of your day. Notice the emotions moving as textures instead of verdicts. Grief as a heavy rain that irrigates rather than floods. Joy as carbonated light under the ribs. Fear as a quick, bright shadow that melts when named. Name it once, gently, like touching the shoulder of a friend to say, "I see you." Naming collapses guesswork, less guesswork, more gravity, cleaner orbit. If tears arrive, let them perform their chemistry. Salt translates experience into permission. If laughter flickers, let it come dry and honest, like a match struck in a cave. Sound is a bridge between worlds. It allows the balcony self to step closer without you craning your neck to see. The body is not a hurdle to the sacred, it is the door. As you feel these small, accurate shifts, the quantum field writes them into your coordinates. Address updated. Right now, place 2 fingers on the pulse at your wrist. Count 5 beats. With each beat, imagine a tiny aperture at the center of your chest, opening 1 notch wider, as if the heart were a camera learning the light of a new world. Wider, wider, click. The aperture stops where comfort meets courage. Hold there. This is the embodied angle of your awakening today, not perfect, precise. Tomorrow, 1 notch more. Finally, let the whole body be a single listening. From crown to heel, a continuous sense of being read by something benevolent and exact. It is reading your readiness and finding it sufficient. You can feel sufficiency as warmth plus clean edges, a boundary that doesn't bark. Stand in that. Breathe in that. This is what the higher timeline feels like in tissue. Not lofty, not far ordinary, made lucid. Keep the ribbon moving. Keep the lantern steady. The next pressure you feel will not be a threat. It will be the door between timelines leaning toward its hinge. Here it is, the pressure that leans, not to crush you, but to clarify you. You can feel it as a density at the keel of your being, the way a river gathers itself before a rapid. In physics, they call this region near change, critical, where fluctuations surge and the medium becomes strangely talkative. In you, it sounds like 1,000 quiet yeses trying to harmonize into one unmistakable chord. Don't brace. Listen. Pressure is the orchestral cue. It means the phase transition has committed. Your breath remembers the rhythm. Inhale, and the sternum lantern brightens. Exhale, and the old room recedes by a half step, as if pulled down a long hallway by its own history. You are not leaving through force. You are being sorted by coherence. The observer loop that once audited every doorway has stopped interrogating and started aligning. That alignment is readdressing your mail in the quantum field. Where it used to read, "Forward when found," it now reads, "Deliver directly." Synchronicity obeys addresses. What does breakthrough feel like in tissue? First, the micro-tremor, a shimmering under the skin, not panic but voltage rerouting. Then the temperature shift, warmth collecting between shoulder blades, belly cooling and steady, crown tingling like carbonated light. Finally, the click in the chest, the unmistakable mechanical poetry of a lock resigning its job. Anatomy participates. Fascia untangles a knot you carried since an age you can't remember. The endocrine choir changes key. Nerves stop scanning the horizon for a storm that belongs to an ancestor. You can almost hear the double helix hum. This is DNA restructuring, moving from contemplative to executable latent code, taking the stage as standard operating truth. Breakthrough also has signatures in your hour. The friction drop arrives. The phone call you dreaded turns harmless. The errand that always snarled in delay becomes a glide. The conversation that used to fork into misunderstanding finds a simple middle. Then the precision nudge, an inner instruction without exclamation points. Send this message now. Take the side street. Carry the book you almost left behind. You follow without ceremony, because the body rings the bell tone of rightness. Then the timeline rhyme. Life returns 3 mirrored confirmations on a billboard, in a sentence overheard, on a page you open by accident, redundant on purpose, because the field is training your trust to stop blinking. Still, the pressure rises before it releases. That's the last job of the old morphic contracts, to test the welds of your vow. They do it with polite paperwork habit, nostalgia, competence in rooms you've outgrown, invitations that flatter every version of you except the one you are becoming. Smile at them the way a new tide smiles at the footprints it erases. You don't owe yesterday an argument. You owe the future accuracy. If the mind demands a diagram, give it this. You're crossing from one basin of attraction to another. In the first basin, survival arranged your chemistry. In the second, contribution does. The ridge between basins is narrow and windy. That wind is the phase transition pressure. It will try to make you smaller by offering 2 counterfeit exits, hurry and hesitation. Hurry burns coherence. Hesitation leaks it. Your corridor is neither. It is the exact pace of breath that lets the helix accept new instruction without triggering the alarms of the old world. You can help the crossing with a simple gesture now. Place 2 fingers over the sternum again and remember the seal word you typed: coherence, aligned, entangled, or deliver directly. Whisper it once, silently if you prefer, and let your mouth shape the syllables like a key rotating a final quarter turn. As you do, picture the balcony self stepping down the last stair and taking your hand not as a rescue, but as recognition. Entanglement collapses distance when welcomed. Welcome is the technology here. And yes, time warps at the threshold. Minutes dilate, hours snap. This is critical opalescence in the human domain, the way a medium near change becomes luminous, revealing patterns usually invisible. You will glimpse roots that make 5 strategies obsolete. Take them. The proof you're across is elegant subtraction. The unnecessary falls away without grief. When grief does arrive, it comes clean, irrigating the roots of what remains. Listen for one last echo from the hallway you're leaving, the chorus of "Are you sure?" It will sound like prudence. Let your body answer with sensation, not debate. The lantern warm, the jaw unhooked, the gaze unforced, the pulse steady. Accuracy doesn't raise its voice. It raises the floor. Feel the floor rise beneath you now, a moving walkway carrying you past the customs of the former life. Stamp your passport with breath. The officer is your own spine. On the other side, you'll notice subtle recalibrations. People who once read you as too much experience you as exact. Projects that required heroic effort begin responding to dignity instead. Rooms that punished honesty become irrelevant. Rooms that reward precision reveal themselves from behind what looked like walls. This is the topology of the higher timeline: less maze, more corridor, doors that open at the speed of sincerity. Take inventory without ceremony. One reality softens its claim, another deepens its invitation. The child in you stops negotiating for permission and starts looking for tools. The ancestor in you nods like a craftsman, seeing their apprentice inherit the bench. The future in you, patient and bright, whispers coordinates you can now hear at walking speed. Breathe once more. The hinge you felt 1,000 paragraphs ago has completed its turn. Pressure is not gone. It has changed employers. It now works for expansion. You are across not as rumor, but as physics. Keep the lantern steady. Keep the vow simple. The next words you speak will set the angle of your mission, and the mission will be larger than you imagined and kinder than you feared. So speak them not as slogans, but as coordinates. I will be a low-entropy node. I will carry coherence where noise once lived. I will spend attention like clean currency. The field hears vows phrased as function, and function is what you came to wear. Your mission is elegantly terrestrial. Make rooms kinder and timelines smarter. You do it the way rivers move mountains, by persistent contact, not spectacle. Keep the observer loop in stewardship, not surveillance. Let breath set tempo. Let the heart broadcast safety. Let the mind aim the beam without tightening the jaw. This is the craft of coherence. Crafts change civilizations because they scale inside ordinary hours. Remember the architecture. Your body is the instrument, the quantum field is the orchestra, and meaning is the score. Tune daily. 2 minutes at waking, 2 at night. The metronome you set becomes a public utility. People will enter your radius and experience unearned relief. They will call it luck, comfort, timing. You will know it as morphic resonance, obeying simple physics. A stable signal invites surrounding signals to stand straighter. You are not here to outrun darkness. You are here to give light fewer obstacles, build frictions down, a sentence placed with care, an apology that returns a room to truth, a boundary spoken without thorn, a refusal to spend voltage on arguments that neither bless nor build. These small choices are quantum levers. They tilt basins of attraction. They alter where history finds footing. The species is in threshold weather foam on the rim of a phase transition. Institutions will creak, narratives will molt, good people will tire. Be the friendly pressure that keeps the bridge taut while we cross. When panic rises, drop your breath a floor lower and offer your steadiness like a handrail. When cynicism performs its cleverness, answer with use. Build the thing, keep the promise, reduce the drag. Coherence doesn't clap back, it composes forward. Your ancestors walk with you, not as ghosts but as gradients, slopes of prayer you now descend with grace. Your descendants are already listening, testing your field for coordinates. How did they live when the air was full of endings? Your life becomes an answer. Accurately, humbly, awake enough to choose contribution over performance, presence over speed, blessing over control. This is the civic technology of awakening. It is not theory, it is logistics of love measured in reduced entropy. Continue to entrain your hour with symbols you can touch. Keep the seal word near coherence, alinged, entangled, or deliver directly. A quiet switch you flip when noise crowds the signal. Treat synchronicity not as spectacle but as governance, a routing protocol for a future trustworthy enough to be simple. You are not the hero, you are the habitat, and habitats outlast storms. When grief visits, irrigate. When joy arrives, distribute. When guidance speaks, obey at walking speed. Watch how effort rearranges into elegance. Watch how allies appear as if embarrassed by their lateness. Watch how the balcony self stops waving and starts working beside you. Sleeves rolled, gaze level. The world will not change because you shouted at it. It will change because you held a frequency long enough that reality learned the tune. Stand now the way a lighthouse stands, not to warn of danger alone, but to prove that precision can be beautiful. Let your coherence be useful. Let your usefulness be contagious. And as you move calm, exact, entrained to a rhythm older than fear, feel the floor of time tilt toward your vow. The door you opened will not swing shut. Pressure has a new employer. Walk forward. Because this is the hour your field was built to carry. This is the corridor you were entrusted to widen. And this is the sentence the future asked you to live. When your quantum manifestation activates, the hidden path reveals itself beneath your feet, and you rise into the higher timeline.